Okay, good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session. Thank you to TDRA for giving us the opportunity to present this session to you through the Virtual Academy. And this is all about a very, very important area, how to win customers through effective communication. So a very quick introduction to myself. My name is Catherine Bentley. I'm originally from the UK, but I've been here for some time. My background is in financial services. So I spent the early part of my career in banks and insurance companies, working in general and marketing management. Moved to the UAE in 2005. And since then, I've spent all of my time in training, coaching, and consulting individuals in really mainly communication skills. So I'm very, very happy to be here to share this session with you today. So first fact of the day to share with you. 85% of our success is directly linked to our skills in communication. So 85% of our success. Of course, we need all our other skills, our functional skills, our technical skills, but what ultimately enables to maximize our success in whichever field we're working in is our communication skills. And this is why this topic, communication skills, is so very important. So that's a bit of background for us to think about. 85% of our success is directly linked to our skills in communication. So, our roadmap for today. We're going to stop and think about how our communication skills are right now. So what's the baseline? Where are we now? Then consider what might get in the way. What might get in the way of effective communication? What are our main barriers? Then starting to think about influence. So in order to win customers and to retain customers, we need to be influencing. And we're going to offer you a little tool to take away called the influence formula. We'll then start to look at how we connect with customers. Yeah, and we'll offer you again another model, another tool to take away, which you might be able to apply in your everyday work and in interaction with customers. And then look at the whole area of building trust. Absolutely crucial for ongoing relationships with customers and in life generally. And then at the end, we can start to think about personal action plans. So how we might be able to apply all of this going forwards in our work. So that's our roadmap generally for today. At any time, guys, we want your questions, we want your feedback, your thoughts. So please feel free to comment. Yeah, to use the facility to comment, and I'm told that my colleagues will be supporting and feeding through any questions, any comments to me, so we can respond to those. Okay, so first things first, where are we now? Where are we now? I'm just going to pause for a few seconds to think about our communication skills right now. Where are we? And if we think about our communication, we can map ourselves onto what we call a communication scale. Okay, so at one end of the scale, we have communication, which might be considered to be maddening. So that's where our communication isn't always terribly clear, where people might have to ask us more than once to explain, to repeat, yeah, to say things in a different way, question things that we've written maybe in emails because they're not clear. That's considered maybe to be maddening communication. Mediocre, that's where our communication is functional. We just about get the job done. Yeah, no more, no less. It's functional. And then at the top of the scale, we've got what we call a magnificent communication. And this is where our communication is connecting with people every time. Yeah, we're building great communication experiences. We're interacting well every time. No confusion. People understand. Yeah, we're influencing and we're winning customers and people around us. So I want you to think and be honest with yourself and ask, where are you on that scale? Would you consider that in general, your communication might be considered to be maddening, mediocre, or magnificent? And if you'd like to just feed your thoughts there, magnificent, mediocre, or maddening, through on the chat box, yeah, on the communication box there, and let's see what we've got in the group as a whole, where we feel we are right now. I'll give you a minute or two to think about that. Yeah, I'm getting some feedback on this now. So maddening, mediocre, or magnificent? Where are we? Let's see where the group is as a whole. Okay, so any major feedback there in terms of numbers of responses in each category? Maddening, mediocre, or magnificent? Where are we as a group? I think I'm getting some feedback now. Okay, so we've got, on the feedback so far, we've got the majority of the group consider themselves to be mediocre, in the middle, functional, yeah? We've got a couple being honest and saying maddening, so thank you for your honesty there. And we just probably got one or two people would rate themselves as magnificent, and that's great too, yeah? So majority of people thinking that they are mediocre. Now this is important, yeah, because in the words of Jim Rohn, who's a business writer, business training guru, if we just communicate, so if we maybe are operating at that mediocre level, we can get by, we can get the job done, functional. But if we communicate skillfully, magnificent, we can work miracles. And that's what we are aiming to do, yeah? In the whole area of looking at effective communication, in looking at creating magnificent communication experiences, we're looking to work miracles and ultimately win, influence customers. So thank you for that feedback. Always good to know and understand where we are right now and where we're actually aiming towards. Okay. Another thing that we need to take into consideration is that the world has changed. The world has changed. So unless you've been living on a different planet for the past 18 months and just arrived back on Earth today, this morning, we'll all be aware that things have changed significantly in life and in work. Yeah? Working conditions have changed, communication conditions have changed. We've moved to lots more virtual communication activity. So this has had a big impact on communication skills. And all of us are needing to adapt, to think about our communication skills and how we develop them in what we're calling the new normal. So all of us are work in progress in terms of communication skills, yeah. And if you feel that you've got a lot to learn and developing communication skills, I think it pretty much applies to all of us as we're working in new normal and different communication challenges are appearing every day. So that's a bit of background there. I think it's worth us stopping to think about communication and what is actually happening when we're communicating. So I'm going to share with you a very simple model. This is called the communication cycle. Okay, very, very simple model where we've got a communication source. That's the start point. Yeah, so I may be the communication source and I'm wanting to communicate a message, some kind of message to my customer. Yeah, my customer would be the receiver. In the communication cycle, we've got to think about how we encode the message, maybe what language we use, what kind of words we use, what kind of style we use. We've got to select a communication channel, whether it be an email, a call, a WhatsApp message, a face-to-face meeting. And at the other side, the receiver has got to decode, unravel the message, form an understanding of the message, and give feedback, whether it be a response, whether it be a body language or nod, whatever it might be. This is the communication cycle. And this is what's happening each and every time we communicate. It's a cycle. Yeah, it isn't a linear one-way process. It's a cycle. It's going round and round. Now, it looks pretty simple when we look at the model like this. But we know, and your feedback has told us, that in many situations we are not actually creating magnificent communication experiences. So we've got to stop and think about what is stopping us. What is getting in the way? Yeah, what's preventing effective communication? What's preventing magnificent communication and interaction experiences? So I want you to just think about now, what are some of your barriers to communication, your own barriers to communication? And again, if you give us your feedback on the chat box, what are some of the barriers that you most frequently are aware of or you experience? What's stopping effective communication? I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that and give us your feedback, please. Just a few more seconds for you to type in what you think are your main communication barriers, please. Okay, any feedback? All right, so we've got some feedback here. Interruptions, distractions, absolutely. The worry of sending the wrong message to the other person. Yes, yeah, and that causing a breakdown in communication. So fear there, yeah. Going through multiple channels, yeah. And as we said earlier, the channels are changing in the new normal situation, yeah. Lots of different channels and a bit of confusion coming in there, yeah. Expectations with no example to make the pictures clear, okay, yeah. Hesitant and not clear, yeah. So lack of clarity. Good examples here. Any more? Language, absolutely. We're going to look at that one shortly. Yeah, language. Okay, so thank you for sharing those, guys. Let's have a look at what are commonly listed as the main communication barriers. Now, these change as communication channels change. These change. Cultural differences, I just see that one's been added. Absolutely, yeah. The main communication barriers that are typically given, yeah, are language barriers. Yeah, we are living and working in a multicultural, multinational environment where many of us are living, working, operating in languages other than our first language. Yeah. Therefore, it is natural that at times language causes a breakdown in communication. Yeah. Let's have a look at a little video clip. It's taken from a very old TV series, which I remember when I was growing up, actually in the UK. It was focused around a group of people who were attending an English language training program. So people from many, many different countries with obviously experiencing breakdown in communication because of language. Have a look at this little video clip. Okay, so a bit of comedy there, but I'm sure we can all identify with the confusion that we frequently encounter when we've got people with certain language barriers, misunderstanding. So it's a common situation. And even where you've got people who speak the same first language, we have differences in accent and pronunciation, which can also cause confusion. So language barriers are there. They're there for all of us. Cultural barriers, as you said, yeah? So differences in understanding brought about by culture. And it's something we've got to be aware of. We've got to be aware of and build into our communication planning and how we deliver, structure communications, working with people around us, especially working with customers. Time pressure. This is one that we're all aware of. We've all got many, many things to do, increasing time pressures, and often feel that we don't have time maybe to focus on structuring communication in the best possible way. Yeah. So we're less concerned about effectiveness of communication. I'm more concerned about efficiency. Yeah. I've got to get this email out quickly. Yeah. I've got to do this call very quickly. I need to get this done. And we don't always stop and think about how effective it's going to be. Another barrier that's often cited. Emotional chaos. Emotional chaos. Now, you raise this in a way, thinking about the worry of sending the wrong message to the wrong person. That's a form of emotion and reaction to a situation. But in times of stress, our emotions can really, really prevent effective communication. So have a look at this little video clip and see if you can see in this video clip the emotions of both the passengers and the service representative who's trying to deal with the customers, and how emotion can really be a barrier to effective communication. Have a look at this.
At Luton, passenger patience is running out fast, and the news isn't getting any better.
We've just been told that the Barcelona flight's just been cancelled now as well. And these guys have been waiting here since about 1 in the afternoon. It's now 9 o'clock. This has got to be the worst day that I've ever had here. Crazy.
Okay, passengers travelling to Barcelona, there are no more seats until the 1st of January.
be in Barcelona tonight.
I
If it's
can't
not
get you
tonight,
to
tomorrow,
Barcelona
we
tonight.
don't care. We have to be in Barcelona.
Okay.
Can you let me know whether you'll be refunding the transfers, the other end, and the hotel?
I can't
We're
say
only
that.
going for
I
Why
can't,
can't you say that?
because I don't have that information
Well,
to
get
give.
it.
We don't have that information
What do
to
you mean you
give.
don't have it? Someone's got it.
No, there's a complaint procedure in place.
Oh,
What we're
stop the complaint
recommending,
procedure, mate. We want to get to Barcelona tonight.
what we're recommending is you keep your receipts in writing. That's the complaint
Keep
procedure.
your seat and write into it.
To our customer support unit.
Stelios, that plate.
To our customer
That
support
plate,
unit.
Stelios. You cut that plate out deliberately.
I've checked Gatwick and Stansted and now all
Well,
his
get it. No,
destinations
good
are
to me. I
full.
ain't got the money to get there.
There's children around. Can you just
Yeah, I'm
please
sorry.
tone the
Well, I ain't
language?
got the money to get there, mate.
Okay, you need to tone the language down.
Okay, well, where you can get me at Barcelona before tomorrow?
I can't,
Why not?
because there are no more services.
not?
There's no seats.
Why not?
There's no seats.
Why not?
There's no more
Why
seats.
not?
Good luck.
It's not an answer.
There are.
It's not good enough, mate. It's not good enough.
Please,
Sorry?
please,
There's people who's working tomorrow and they have to be tomorrow in Barcelona. So, guys, it's your responsibility to find a flight for us.
There aren't
Excuse
any
me,
more
what's
seats.
that? Is that an agreement with you? Yes.
Barcelona.
Are you going to honour it? There's an
I'm trying
agreement.
to help. I'm trying to
No,
help
you're not.
you.
You're just saying you've got
Hold on.
nothing.
All I'm doing is passing the information. So
Yeah,
that
what
I've been
information?
told.
You've got nothing. I've got an agreement with you, and you've broken it.
Okay.
Yeah, you've broken it. What you going to do about it?
I'm acting as a representative
Yeah,
on
you're
behalf
doing
of
great. All you're
EasyJet.
saying is you've got nothing. I've got an
Okay.
agreement in front of me. 100 quid.
Okay.
Well, where is it?
Getting
I
angry at
want
me
it.
is not going to help the situation.
Sorry?
At all. I can't.
Okay, I'm going to pause that there. I'm going to stop that there. I think what we can see there is raw emotion. Raw emotion. The passengers are stressed, they're disappointed, they're angry. Communication is not being controlled. And also the representative from the company is trying to deal with this and respond in an appropriate way. So emotional chaos, major barrier to effective communication. And anybody that's dealt with angry customers, disappointed customers, demanding customers can probably identify with some of the emotional exchanges that are going on there. Big barrier to effective communication. Lack of empathy, another one. If we're not being empathic with people, very, very difficult to communicate effectively and build the relationships to win customers. So another area that we need to think about in our communication, are we empathizing? Are we putting ourselves in the shoes of others? And we'll look at that a little bit later on when we talk about connection. And the final one that's given, and increasingly these days, is physical barriers, where we're relying more and more on technology to communicate. Physical barriers, technology can let us down, and it can prevent the most appropriate and effective communication taking place. So thank you for your feedback and sharing with you these commonly stated barriers to communication. But ultimately, what does this mean? When communication breaks down and it's not effective, results inefficiency. Things often have to be done twice or 3 times. Yeah, rework where communication is broken down. We can get the wrong outcome if communication is not clear, where misunderstandings occur. Conflict and breakdown in relationships. Yeah, very often where misunderstandings happen because of, I don't know, inaccuracies maybe in an email or misunderstandings about words that have been used in a conversation, it can lead to breakdown in relationships. And also loss of credibility. So we've got to think about this, our credibility as professionals. Yeah, are we presenting credibility for our own personal brand and for the brand which we're representing for the organization? Failed communication can really affect that credibility. So the question to leave you to think about is, can you break through? Yeah, where you've identified barriers and maybe where you see some of the other barriers that we've highlighted there, can you break through these barriers? The first step is knowing what the barriers are and then developing your solutions to work around those barriers, to work through and really, really enhance communication experiences. Okay, now the next area I wanted to work with you on is, why do we communicate? And I think we've really got to think about this in each and every situation. Why are we communicating? And what is the purpose? What is the purpose? And if we look at communication as a whole, there can be many layers of purpose. Yeah, communication can be used to get or give information. It can be used to persuade somebody of a particular standpoint, of a particular course of action. It can be used to ensure understanding, to clarify, or it can be used to get action. But ultimately, at the core of effective communication is the purpose to influence behavior, thinking, or emotion. This is truly effective communication, to influence others. Now, quick question to pose to you now. What do you think the difference is between persuade and influence? Often the two words are used interchangeably, but what do you think the difference is? Because there is a difference between persuade and influence. Anybody like to give us their thoughts on that? The difference between persuade and influence. You want to just pop your ideas on the chat box. What is the difference? Any thoughts? I'll just give you a few more seconds to submit any thoughts you've got in this area. Okay. To summarize, difference between persuading and influencing. Persuading is very much about a single occasion, maybe a short-term, more superficial, surface situation. Yeah, so I may persuade my husband to go to the gym tonight. He doesn't really want to go, but I use my communication skills and I persuade him that tonight he will go. He's not completely convinced it's the right thing to do, but he will go. To influence is really a lot deeper, to go deeper in terms of people's buy-in, people's commitment more into the longer term. So if we're thinking about customers and winning customers, we want to influence them. We want to influence them towards our organization so that they are long-term with us. Yeah, long-term, they buy in and they're convinced by our organization, committed and loyal to it. Yeah, I've got some thoughts here. Difference is the action taken. I can be persuaded, but I just keep it in mind. But influence is taking it to another level. Absolutely. Thank you for that. To another level and taking action. Persuade, there might be a change of mind in the future, but influence is long-term and could be permanent. Absolutely right. And to win customers, we are looking for long-term. So when we think about the right kind of communication style and interaction style, we are looking for influencing skills. Anybody can persuade, yeah, for a short term or a more superficial, surface type of situation. In terms of long-term commitment, we're looking for influencing. So, thinking about influencing, when we talk about influencers nowadays, people tend to think about social media influencers. Well, yes, that's a part of it. But in general, an influencer is someone who has the influence, the authority over, or the trust, big area in terms of influence of a certain group of people. And that's what we're trying to do as skilled communicators, to influence others, to create that trust. So how can we do this? How can we measure? How can we track our influencing skills, and how can we develop them? Well, we're going to offer you a very simple formula to take away. A very simple formula. And it looks something like this. C plus T equals I. Now, not surprisingly, the I bit is influence. Yeah, the I bit is influence. What are the other two elements? Well, it's simply this. Connection plus trust equals influence. Connection plus trust equals influence. So if we want to influence people in our communication, in our interaction, we have to firstly connect with them, build the trust, and that is going to lead to our ability to influence. So this is your first tool of the day to take away. Yeah, connection plus trust equals influence. But how do we actually connect? And in the past, when I've been coaching, when I've been training people, they said to me, it's so difficult to measure. How can we connect? How can we work through a process of connecting? It's very intangible. There is a way of us looking at several elements as to how we connect with people. I'm going to share this with you now. We call it the heart of connection. The heart of connection. And what this looks like is 5 different elements. Honoring people, that's the H. Honoring people. Empathizing with individuals. Being authentic to yourself or to your brand. Responding to people. And being transparent. These 5 elements, which we're going to look at in detail now, are all about how we can successfully connect with people. How we can connect with people. So if we feel we're struggling to connect with people, be it customers or other people in our work or personal lives, it's worth looking at these 5 elements. Which bits are not working? Which bits do we need to focus on to develop? So let's have a look at each of these in detail. What do they mean? How do we honor people? Essentially, honoring people is all about respect. How we display respect in all our communications. Respect for their opinions and their feelings, their emotions, even if we don't share them. Yeah, opinions, thoughts, beliefs, feelings, even if they're different to ours, it's about showing respect. It's about never treating any person in a way that we less than we would want to be treated ourselves. So how would I want to be treated in a particular situation? Yeah, that's how we honor people in communication. Yeah, we develop the communication experiences which we would like to receive. That's the honoring part. Empathizing. Questions to ask. What does the individual need to know? What do they want to know? What's their communication style? Any cultural issues that we need to be aware of and respect, yeah? What could be their emotions? And what language would they understand? So all of these questions, we've got to think in this whole area of honoring people, and then look at it something like this. Yeah, so this was actually an advertising piece which appeared in London many years ago. We can tell from the phone number that appeared on the advertising hoarding. A key thing that was wrong with this is the advertising message was aimed for an adult that cannot read. But of course, if you can't read, you're not going to be able to read this advertising piece. So a complete lack of regard for the audience, for the reader, for the potential customer. Okay, this is an extreme example, but we've got to think in our communication, are we communicating in a way that is going to be able to be understood, received well, decoded by the receiver? And empathizing, this is really the whole emotional parts. Yeah, so the E from the heart model, how are we empathizing? Are we able to recognize, look out for, recognize and sense what a person's feeling and understand what they truly need in our interaction with them? Yeah, do we understand our own emotions first? And then are we able to pick up on what the person's feeling and what our communication, what kind of emotion that's likely to cause? Are we managing that? Are we aware of it? That's how we connect with people in terms of empathy. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But do we do this? Do we do this? Are we truly listening properly in communication situations? I'd like to share with you, you may have come across this before, you may not, but the Covey's 5 levels of listening. There are lots and lots of different listening models. Personally, I think this is a good one to use when we're looking at our own listening skills, because it's quite simple and easy to understand the different levels. And it's worth thinking about which level most often we are operating at. And there are 5 levels: ignore, pretend, selective listening, attentive listening, or empathic listening. So let's look at each of these in turn and have a think about where you are most likely to be at. It can differ depending on the situation, but see if you can identify some of your own behavior in these different levels of listening. We've got the first one, ignoring. So here, we're not listening at all. And there are times when, if we're honest about it, we're all at this level. As you said earlier, there can be distractions, things happening in the environment that are distracting us, and we're just not listening at all. Thinking about this in terms of customers, we can be completely failing to pick up on the customer's feedback, on buying signals, on feedback in terms of service, because we're not listening. A little bit of a cartoon here, where we've got a guy trying to sell some kind of fish to his customer. Isn't this a fine specimen? Instantly, the customer says, yes, I'll buy it. The guy is not listening to the customer. He goes on. Yeah, note the lovely fin structure. Yeah, that's great, I'll buy it. The customer wants to buy, but he's not listening. And how about these healthy scales? Yeah, I'll buy it. You can see here the customer's starting to lose a bit of patience. We only fish in the most pristine waters. Yes, I'll buy it. And he carries on. We only use the finest lures. I'll buy it. I'll buy it. Yeah. At this stage, I think in real life, you probably have lost the customer. Yeah. Hey, did I mention this great dose of it? Please, please let me buy the fish. Yeah. It's a little bit of a cartoon. It's comedy. But I've worked with salespeople like this that are not listening to customers. Yeah. So are we ignoring? Are we too keen on what we want to say? Talking about the product, talking about our service, and we're not listening to what the customer's telling us. So that's ignoring. Second level is pretend listening. Yeah. So we're allowing distractions to prevent decoding. Yeah. Pretend listening. We're pretending to listen, but really we're not. A little video clip to show you here, which is all about pretend listening. You might be able to recognize some of your own behavior in this, yeah, at certain times. Have a look at this.
Just don't know what to do. It's a massive decision. What do you think?
Before I tell you what I think, tell me that one again. Yeah, that actually reminds me of something completely different. Leave that one with me. That is a nice shirt.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Yes.
What?
What? No.
Are you even listening to me? Of course I am. Oh, sorry, I was talking to him.
That is a nice shirt.
Doomed up.
Okay, so you may be able to recognize in some of those examples that your own behavior, yeah? And at times, we all fall into this pretend listening, but be careful. We're missing key data from customers, from colleagues, from people around us in pretend listening. Third type of listening, selective listening. Yeah, so paying attention to the speaker as long as they're talking about things we like, we're interested in, or we agree with. Yeah. If they move on to talk about other things, we might slip back to pretend listening or even ignoring. So this is about choosing what we want to hear. Yeah. So think about situations where you might be a selective listener. You're not truly focused on what the communicator is communicating. Fourth level. Now here, we're getting a little bit closer to good listening. So we're carefully listening to the other person, but whilst they're speaking or communicating in another way, we're actually thinking about and deciding whether we agree, we disagree, whether they're right or wrong, and thinking about how we're going to respond. Yeah? So we're listening from our own perspective and formulating our response and not really focusing on what's being said or being written if it's in a business writing situation. So levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're listening from our own perspective, and in most cases with the intent to respond from our own experience. Level 5, this is where we need to be to become magnificent communicators and interaction situations. This is what we call empathic listening. And this is where we've got to slow down, be patient, where we've got to be listening, repeating back what was said, and be focused completely on the speaker or the communicator, standing in the shoes of the others and actually sharing the emotions, being able to identify and sharing the emotions. So going away from this today, think about where are you in terms of the 5 levels of listening? Where do you stand? And how can you perhaps move up the scale in more situations? It's commonly believed that less than 10% of people are, in general, attentive or empathic listeners. So many of us have got a lot of work to do to become better listeners. And this is where it starts, I think, understanding the different levels of listening and how we can work through these to become better communicators. Okay, so I'm going to move us on. In the interest of time, I'm going to move us ahead of this exercise and just think about what might be stopping us, what might be getting in the way of effective listening. Yeah, you gave us some excellent examples in terms of general communication barriers, and many of these apply also to listening. There may be more, but in general, the barriers to effective listening are often stated as being bias. Yeah, sometimes we're biased. We make judgments about people and the situation or a situation that's happening, and we're not truly listening to viable data or to emotions which are being expressed. Distractions, as you said earlier, yeah? So distractions in our busy work environments can prevent us from listening. Language again, yeah? Where there's a language barrier, sometimes we switch off and we're not really listening. We're distracted by our misunderstanding and we're not listening to what's being said. Our mood and our emotions can prevent us from listening. So be aware of that. Insufficient interest. If we're not interested in a topic, very, very difficult to maintain a high level, high degree of listening. And lack of understanding, yeah? If we're not understanding something, a situation, we can again be more likely to move down that scale in terms of type of listening and to be distracted, to be selective about what we're picking up, or maybe even ignoring what's being said. And again, cultural differences can prevent us being the best listening. So think about that. Think about what might be your barriers. What might be your barriers to being the best kind of listener? Because that's how we're going to be connecting with people. So a few things to think about. Always think about acknowledging the communicator in the best possible way, depending on the channel. Being present, full attention. It could save time later. Yeah, where we may have to ask people to repeat, or we're doing the wrong thing, and we may have to go back and seek clarification later. So be present. Be aware of emotions that are being expressed and your own emotions as well. Be aware of nonverbal messages. Yeah, so if we're in a face-to-face situation or a video situation, be aware of nonverbal messages, body language, facial expressions, and what they might be telling us. Using questions to clarify. Yeah, very, very important that we use questions, right question, right time. And summarizing back to reflect and confirm understanding. So very, very key for better listening, better listening. Questioning techniques. Again, as communicators, we're speaking, we're listening, but also questioning, yeah, using open and closed questions to get more information, to clarify, probing questions to get more information, and asking the right question at the right time. It can prevent major consequences. Have a look at this little cartoon clip, which shows right communication, right question, right time can prevent problems further down the line. All he needed to do was to ask the question. Yeah. So light-hearted look at it, but often asking the right question at the right time to the right person can save lots of problems and issues further down the line. So think about that. How are your questioning skills? Moving through the heart model now. The A in heart is about being authentic. So reflect on your communication, yeah? Are you being authentic? Are you reflecting you as a professional and the brand that you're representing, yeah? Aligning what you feel, what you think, and what you do, your values and the values of your organization. Is this coming through your communication? The R in the heart is about responding to people and not reacting. Not reacting, taking the time to stop and think, what is an appropriate response? What is an appropriate response? Thinking about honoring, empathizing, how best do I respond to this individual? Yeah, going that extra mile to create magnificent communication and work experiences and meeting customers' needs, showing that they're valued. Yeah, so stop, think, how do we respond with intention? Taking the time to do that. And then the T, the final element of the heart model, is about being transparent. So openness and transparency at the heart of all relationships. Much of this comes through the words that you're using and the way that you actually are open to communication. A key part of connection is this area of transparency. So, guys, that's the heart model. That's the heart model for connection. But we said, for the influence model, connection plus trust is equal to influence. So in addition to connecting, we've got to think about how we build trust, how we create and build trust. How do we do that? And what are the key elements of trust? So I know time's against us, but I'd just be very, very interested in anybody's thoughts about what are the main elements that allow us to trust people. What are the main parts of trust? So just a couple of seconds, if anybody would like to share with us their thoughts on what are the main things that allow us to trust people or allow people to trust us. What are the key elements of trust? So any thoughts, if you want to share, please, on the chat box. Okay, just while we're waiting for that feedback to come through, I want to share something with you, which is what we call the trust equation. So it may seem to people, when you start to talk to them about trust, they say it's very difficult to actually measure trust, very difficult to actually measure it. But there is a tool that we can use where we look at various parts of an individual and give them a score and actually put this into a trust equation to think about how people might be able to trust us or how we can trust other people that we're dealing with. So let's have a look, short video, which explains this, and then we'll look at each part individually.
Trust equation is a descriptive model for how trust works. What are the parts of it? Think of it as 5 pieces, and it really is an equation. You know, X equals blah, blah, blah over Y. And let's define those now. X is trust, or actually trustworthiness, how worthy we are of other people's trust. There's 3 factors in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. Credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. 3 out of those 4 serve to increase the extent to which people trust us. So if people look at us and say, well, he's credible, that's a good. That increases their trust in me, my trustworthiness. If people say, well, he's reliable, that increases people's trust in me. If people say, I feel intimate with him, I know it's an intentionally shocking word in the business context, but it means safe, secure, okay, then to that extent, people trust me. The equation has those three factors in the numerator. So if you increase the value of those factors in the numerator, you increase the value of your trustworthiness. The one in the denominator is the self-orientation. And notice that because there's only one factor in the denominator, it's more important than the other three. Self-orientation is a measure of how much you're focused on yourself versus the other person.
Okay, so trust formula. Trust is about credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, how comfortable people feel discussing things with us, divided by self-orientation. So what that means, as the video explained, the words that we use give us our credibility. Yeah, I can trust what he or she says about this area. It could be that we're very well informed, we're able to give all the right information, we present it in a very clear way. Credibility. Reliability, actions. Yeah, so your past dealings and so on give a measure of reliability. I can trust him or her to deliver. And intimacy. I feel comfortable discussing this. Emotional connection. Yeah, so how we empathize, how we honor, how we respect will give this level of intimacy, divided by self-interest. Yeah, so I trust that he or she cares about. So how we communicate to give this measure of comfort, reassurance that we care about our customers, our colleagues, or however we're dealing with. So we can use this model, we can use this tool to think about people we trust, yeah, or think about if we get a feel that we're not trusting someone, what is it? Which part of this trust equation is causing an issue? And this is also how people subconsciously will be judging us against these factors. So think about all of these in relation to your communication and your interaction. Because as Zig Ziglar said, if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. Yeah, they trust you. And how we create that trust by our communication, by our interaction, is going to ensure that we win customers into the long term. So we say to communicate effectively, it's about connecting and building trust. Yeah, in the increasingly digitized world, it's about being a whole human and not a brain with a keyboard. So all the aspects we looked at in terms of connection, in terms of empathizing, responding, all of those aspects to be this whole human and not just the brain with a keyboard. So just in summary, key takeaways. It's been quite a short session, but summary of things to take away from today. Remember, 85% of our success is directly linked to communication. It's fundamental that we work to enhance our communication skills. COVID, pandemic, has affected the way that we work and the way that we communicate, and we need to be continually improving our communication skills in different channels. Awareness of barriers to communication is our start point for overcoming them. So be aware of what the barriers are, analyze them, and then we can start to work around them. Remember the influence equation. Connection plus trust equals influence. Remembering the heart of connection, honoring, empathizing, being authentic, responsive, and transparent. And then the trust equation. To take this away, connection, credibility plus trust plus influence divided by self-orientation. So those are the key takeaways. And we always say that communication works well for those who work at it. We are all under construction. We're all work in progress. And we've got to continue to work at our communication skills to make them better in changing circumstances, changing situations. So one thing you might also like to take away from today, your own action plan. How are you going to commit to action going forwards? Yeah, things that you might want to do less of, that you picked out of today, some of the things we might have talked about, things that you might want to start doing from today. You might have recognized something that you think, yes, I'm going to start doing that in all my communications going forwards. Things that you recognize that you're already doing well and you want to continue to do, or maybe some things you want to stop doing. Yeah, maybe it's, I want to stop reacting in a communication situation and start to respond more rather than react. Yeah, so that's one suggestion as to how you can commit to action going forwards. Any questions from anybody? Very happy to take the questions if you want to communicate them in the chat box. I'm here for a while if people want to send their questions through. But I'd also like to thank everyone at this point for their attendance today. I really hope that you found it useful. Thank you again to TDRA for allowing us to present this very important session through the Virtual Academy. So any questions? Very happy to field those now. Okay, so one of the questions coming through is a good one. Yeah, what's the difference between efficient and effective communication? Efficient communication is something that we're all able to do these days because of technology. Yeah, we can very quickly send an email off to someone. Yeah, quickly respond. We can very quickly pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody without necessarily thinking through how effective it's going to be, whether it's going to achieve the objectives. Yeah, to be effective, we've got to think about what is the purpose of the communication? What do I want the receiver to think, to feel, and to do? So an effective communication will have a clear purpose and something that you'll be able to measure later on. Did I achieve my objective in this communication? Yeah, so that's the difference. There are times when we have to be efficient, but always thinking about, yes, is this effective as well? Is it going to achieve my objectives? And that can be the difference, yeah? In a situation where we're all under time pressure, many people feel that they've got more of a tendency towards efficient communication. We've got to just stop and think about this. Is this going to be effective? Is it going to be effective? Okay, I've got another question here. How can I give my full attention and listen if I'm not interested? Okay, good question. Good question. Now, we've got to think then about why are we not interested? Why are we not interested? Is it something that maybe we don't understand? Is it something that we feel isn't within the scope of what we should be doing now? Yeah. Or is it that emotionally we're not in the right place for that? So that's the first thing to ask. Why am I not interested in this? What is it that's causing my lack of interest? Yeah. We have to at times put our emotions to one side and think about, okay, do I want to build a relationship with this person? Do I want to build a relationship with this person? If it's a customer, then obviously the answer has got to be yes. And we've got to put aside our emotions and our instant reaction to a situation. I'm not interested in this. I don't have time for this. You know, this is maybe boring. I don't understand it, whatever it is. And think about the long term. What do I want the outcome to be? Stop. Yeah, stop thinking about how we want to react and tune in to what the speaker or what the writer is saying. Yeah, and that's the key to it. All right. What is the most important thing that we focus on in winning customers in e-marketing. Okay, so in terms of e-marketing, we've got to think about customers and long-term, and also how we use e-marketing to work on emotion. Yeah, so how is that more distant form of communication going to key into the emotion? So I would say that really thinking about that, yeah, empathy, again, empathy, understanding the customer, how they're going to think, feel when they receive the communication, and what you want that response to be. So I think emotion has got to be there, number one, and thinking about the words that you use, the channel you use, the style and the tone, what that emotion is going to be and how you emotionally connect. I think that's going to be a key one in e-marketing. I think they're all the questions. Okay, I think we're just about out of time. Thank you again for attending. Thank you for your contributions and your questions. I wish everybody the best of luck, and stay safe. Thank you again.